What's up, my adventurous explorer? As you might already know, I've already been to India 3 times, which means that I've spent more than 4 months traveling all around the country non-stop. And throughout all those trips, I pretty much went to different locations every time. So I feel like I got to see quite a bit of India. Obviously not everything, because it's such a large country, but I've seen, hundreds of different places. And today is the day I will share my top 24 coolest places to visit in that gorgeous country. And I really hope this list will be very, very useful too, whether you are, a local traveler from India or absolutely any country in the world. Let's go. Super cool place to visit in India. Number 24 is one of the largest spices market in the whole world and by far the largest in Asia. That is called BAOLI. BAOLI is a very, very large spices market situated in central Old Delhi that was built in the 17th century and throughout this time has grown to Asia's largest spices market. There's so many people buying and selling things. There's obviously quite a lot of tourists as well. The center of the market is this really interesting squared building where apparently you can go all the way to the very top, to the rooftop and see the market from above. There's also hundreds of monkeys running around there. It's a very, very interesting place. Certainly be ready for a lot of different smells to come your way. It's actually pretty unique, though very interesting experience. BAOLI is located in the city center of the Old Delhi, so very easily reachable from absolutely any place in Delhi, whether with a taxi, tuk-tuk, they even have metros there, or absolutely any other mode of transportation. It's very, very easy to get there, and that's why, of course, it's one of the most touristy places on this list, but I guess certainly worth a couple of hours of your time, because it's just such a local, beautiful Indian experience. Cool place to visit in India, number 23, is the SASSOON docks in Mumbai. The SASSOON docks is one of the oldest and largest docks in all of Mumbai that comes alive every morning with thousands of people buying and selling all kinds of fish and seafood. Apparently the docks were created by the British hundreds of years ago, and even though right now it's not necessarily a very big dock, but it really does come alive at 6 or 5 a.m. every single morning, basically for the sunrise, because so many people go fishing throughout the night, and then whatever they catch, they bring to these docks early in the morning, and then families are selling it. So for example, the men go fishing, and then they literally throw the fish and seafood and everything onto the dock. Then their wives or children, they're picking that up and selling it directly there. My best tip is to be very considerate of the local people there, because there's just so many people there and they're trying to sell, the products super fast because, very, very soon everyone's gonna leave, right? So if you're taking a picture of someone, please be considerate that some people will want to pass by because it's their job, right? Like that's how they feed their families. That's how they support their families. So please do not obstruct their work. Be very chill and very, very humble, right? And just enjoy the ride. The SASSOON docks are situated in southern Mumbai, so if you happen to be in Mumbai, it's very easily reachable by a lot of different transport options. Once again, taxis, your own motorbike, car, buses. I'm sure you maybe can even find some trains and stuff because it's a relatively touristy area there. So if you just get into a taxi, just tell them you want to go to the SASSOON dock, you'll be there in no time. Epic place to visit in India, number 22, are the colonial churches of Goa. You see, even though Goa's history dates back to a very long time ago, in the early 16th century, the Portuguese defeated the ruling Bijapur Sultan and set up a permanent settlement in Goa. This was the beginning of foreign rule that lasted for 4.5 centuries until its annexation in 1961. But still to this day, you can see loads of Portuguese colonial buildings, the most important of which are the grand churches everywhere you go. The churches apparently really do take you back in time. They almost feel like a very cool time machine experience, to be completely honest with you, because it really does feel like you're in Europe, either Portugal or Spain or something like this. They have the Jesus statues there and stuff. It's a very weird experience, I guess. Certainly nothing that I expected to find in India in a way. Like I've never heard about this part of Goa's history, and it just literally blew me away. Even though we can find, I think, hundreds or at least dozens of churches everywhere you go in Goa, the coolest of them will be located in this tiny town called Vela Goa, which is where the colonial Portuguese set up their base basically, and that's why, you know, they built all these structures in there, and that's why they look so grand. So certainly make your way there. It's not too far from Goa's airport in Vasco da Gama, and of course everyone knows that place. So once again, if you hire a taxi or you have your own transportation, it's very, very easy to get there. The roads are really, really good, and other than that, there should certainly be a lot of tourist buses going there or other kinds of transportation as well, because of course it's a pretty touristy place. Cool place to visit in India, number 21, and I'm sure a lot of you legends might not have expected it, because, you know, maybe a lot of people would put it at their top 3 or so. The Taj Mahal. As you know, of course, I'm not the biggest fan of super touristy places, and even though, you know, the Taj Mahal obviously is one of the most beautiful places in the world and has amazing history and this and that, but I mean, when it comes to the places that I enjoy visiting, there has to be a bit more nature involved and a bit less people. But to be completely honest, I mean, 21st place out of all of India, that's still pretty good, eh? The Taj Mahal was built by Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in memory of his wife Mumtaz in the early 17th century. For its construction, masons, stonecutters, inlayers, carvers, painters, calligraphers, dome builders, and other artisans were requisitioned from the whole empire and also from Central Asia and Iran. The Taj Mahal is considered to be the greatest architectural achievement in the whole range of Indo-Islamic architecture, and because of that, it's one of the most widely visited monuments in the whole world, with as many as 10 million people visiting it every single year. My best tip is to go to the Taj Mahal very early in the morning, obviously as early as you can, though at the same time do not expect it to be empty. When I went there during my last time in India, when my filmmaker and I did that really long motorbike trip, link is in the description box down below if you haven't seen it yet. Either way, we woke up at I think 4 or 4:30, and we went there at around 5 or 5:30 because I think they opened it up at 6, and we thought, wow, well, surely there's not going to be a lot of people because it was Monday morning. We thought everyone would sleep and all that stuff. We go there, there's literally hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. I have no idea, like all these tourist buses and stuff. It was insane. Like we had to queue in line, of course, and then when we went in, everyone was like running to take the first picture of the Taj Mahal and stuff. But when we went in, there were already so many people. It was literally a crowd, like in some sort of a supermarket, I guess. Once again, it's a very, very beautiful site. So certainly go check it out and go as early as you can. But once again, do not expect it to be completely empty, because it's not going to be completely empty. The Taj Mahal is located in a very, very, very famous city of India that is called Agra. It's very, very close to New Delhi. Once again, from New Delhi to Agra, there's so many transportation options. You can easily do a day trip if you want, or you can also go to Agra. You can sleep there for a couple of days and explore the Taj Mahal as much as you like. There's obviously a lot of buses, trains, you know, taxis, whatever. Your own transportation is also very easy because the highways from Delhi to Agra are perfect. I mean, you can even find Starbucks and McDonald's on the way, which literally never happens in India, you know. So there's a lot of restaurants and gas stations and everything. It's very, very well developed compared to a lot of other places. So it's certainly not going to be a problem. Number 20, Cabo de Rama Fort. As you know, a lot of the colonialists from Europe who would, you know, visit Asia, they would obviously build up their own forts, which were very, very useful for them to either trade or obviously defend their, you know, positions. So they would obviously be using it for a lot of different purposes. And because Goa had such a long colonialist history, they have quite a few different really beautiful forts. My favorite, I guess, is this fort called Cabo de Rama Fort that was built hundreds of years ago, and now it's basically been quite abandoned because it's kind of difficult to reach, so I guess not that many people go there, and of course they're not making maybe enough money to really preserve it. But honestly, that's why it's so good. It has an incredibly beautiful place. It's situated literally on top of a cliff, so you can see amazing sea views, and there's like palm trees all around you, and there's this really beautiful wall that's kind of abandoned. It's almost sort of you know, there's like holes in the wall and everything, but it gives you this really, really interesting, very unique, very remote, very, very cool feeling. And those are the kind of places I really like visiting, of course. As I mentioned before, Cabo de Rama Fort is a bit remote. It is situated around 52 kilometers away from Vasco da Gama, which is where you'll have an airport, you'll have a railway station, and maybe a lot of buses will actually come there. So obviously the best way to get to the fort is to have your own transportation, which is what we did with our motorbikes, or obviously if you have a car, it still works as well. That being said, I really do think there should be many taxis also taking tourists to this fort, because it's a very beautiful place. And as you know, the taxis in India are not necessarily the most expensive taxis in the world, so I'm sure you can afford it, especially if you're traveling with some friends and stuff. So yes, it will take a while to get there, but I promise you it's gonna be worth it. Really cool place to visit in India, number 19 is a very famous UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Caves of Ajanta. The Ajanta caves are 30 rock-cut Buddhist cave monuments which date from the 2nd century BC. The caves include paintings and rock-cut sculptures described as among the finest surviving examples of ancient Indian art, particularly expressive paintings that present emotion through gesture, pose, and form. According to UNESCO, these are masterpieces of Buddhist religious art that influenced the Indian art that followed. As most really awesome places to visit, Ajanta does not have the best location. It's a little remote. So a lot of people go to Ajanta from Mumbai, but even that is 420 kilometers, which, you know, in India with their roads, it takes a while to reach. For example, if you have a car or a motorbike and you drive absolutely non-stop, you don't even stop for gas or food or, you know, to go to the restroom, it's gonna take you 9 hours to reach. So obviously, you know, if you don't wanna rush too much and, you know, you wanna stop every once in a while, it's gonna take you literally the whole day, or actually maybe even 2 days to reach that place. The place is a little touristy because a lot of tourist buses come there, but once again, I think it's definitely worth a visit. Epic place to visit in India, number 18 is a place that apparently does not feel like India at all. It's the 2nd largest Tibetan settlement outside Tibet that is called BYLAKUPPE. You see, in 1960, the government of the Indian state of Karnataka allotted nearly 3,000 acres of land at BYLAKUPPE, and the first ever Tibetan settlement in India came into existence in 1961. These days, it's become a very popular tourist attraction, mostly because it's a place in India that doesn't really feel like India at all, and their temples are out of this world stunning. BYLAKUPPE has quite a few different really interesting touristy sites, like for example the Golden Temple and a few places around it, and those areas are obviously very touristy. There's so many people taking selfies, and once again tourist buses come there. There's, you know, quite a bit of action. Obviously the locals are making money from it, so I guess it's good, but visiting it maybe wasn't the best thing. However, the next day we actually hopped on our motorbikes and we decided to explore literally the whole town, which is actually quite tiny, so you know you can definitely explore all of it in a day, just a couple of hours. And we went to these like remote monasteries where only the locals live, and then we started talking with some local people who are, for example, running restaurants and stuff. Eventually I made friends with this guy called Wang Li, who was a super cool guy. He even allowed us into his kitchen where he was, you know, making traditional Tibetan dishes. And apparently Karnataka is one of the very few states in India where people are allowed to eat beef. As you might know, in India, you know, cows are considered to be sacred, so if you eat beef, that's I mean, in most places you could actually end up, you know, in jail and stuff. So we saw him preparing different dishes with that, and it literally blew our minds and stuff. But it was obviously, once again, a very interesting cultural experience. BYLAKUPPE is located in, once again, Karnataka, which is a state in southern India. The closest big city nearby is this place called Mysore, which is actually quite a touristy place because they have some really beautiful palaces there. So if you happen to find yourself there, BYLAKUPPE is only 65 kilometers away, or 60 kilometers away, something like this. So I think you can easily find someone to take you there, whether a taxi driver or some sort of a tourist minivan or a tourist bus or something like this. If you have your own transportation, obviously you can easily do it in a day, whether from Mysore or maybe Bangalore, which is a bit further away. But yeah, I think it's certainly worth a visit because it's just a very unique place in India, but doesn't feel like India. What? Amazing place to visit in India, number 17 is Jaisalmer Fort. The Jaisalmer Fort is located in the ancient desert town of Jaisalmer. That's a very popular UNESCO World Heritage Site, also known as the Golden City of India. The town lies in the heart of the Thar Desert, which makes the climate incredibly hot and quite different from most other areas of North India. Its crown jewel is, of course, the Jaisalmer Fort, which is one of the very few living forts in the world, as nearly 1/4 of the old city's population still resides within the fort. The fort is located inside the city, literally inside the city. So if you get to JAISALMER, you can simply walk to it. It's like a 5-minute walk from most places, right? The highways going there are pretty good because it's a relatively touristy location. So I think they have trains, they have buses, all that stuff. But if you want to take your own transportation or even a bus, it's a pretty long ride. I think from Delhi it's around 600 kilometers or something like this. So of course you can go there, but it's gonna take a while. Cool place to visit in India, number 16 is a place I'm sure you might not have expected was in India, and that is the world's tallest statue, by far the world's tallest statue, that is called the Statue of Unity. The Statue of Unity is a colossal statue of Indian statesman and independence activist Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who was the first Home Minister of independent India and highly respected for his leadership in uniting the 562 princely states of India without any armed conflict. The statue was first announced in 2010 and built a few years later for a staggering amount of $420 million US. Apparently, the statue stands at 182 meters above the ground, which makes it by far the tallest statue in the world. My best tip is to find a way to see the statue from a distance because, God, it just looks so incredible. For example, when we were taking our motorbikes up to the statue, dude, we could see it from kilometers away, you know what I mean? It just looks so big, bigger than the mountains that are surrounding it. Also, not too far from the statue itself, there are some gardens that you can go to. So you can have a picnic there, and there's some beautiful flowers and this and that. But the most important part is, of course, the fact that you can see the statue from there as well. And it looks so massive, so grand. Once again, surrounded by mountains that are actually smaller than the statue itself. Amazing. The Statue of Unity is kind of easy to reach, I guess, because it's not too far from the capital of the state of Gujarat called Ahmedabad. It's only 200 kilometers away, and because so many people come visit that place every single year, the roads leading up to there are very, very good. I'm sure there's a lot of transportation options from Ahmedabad or maybe some other big cities of India, but if you have your own car or a motorbike, it's gonna be just so easy. There are signs everywhere, and obviously people are really proud about the place. So very easy to reach, just gonna take a bit of a time because it's 200 kilometers away. No, I'm just making a video. Okay, so the current situation is that I've just been kicked out of my first location because apparently I'm visiting my sister here in California. Some sort of a guy came and was like, oh, you're not supposed to be talking here, blah, 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 you need to move out. I'm like, okay, chill, bro, it's fine. So now I'm left with everything that I've got in my backpack and my computer as well. By the way, a super cool new computer that I have from LG. Either way, right now I'm here outside trying to find another location to finish the video. I think it'll be fine. Let's try. It's time to get back to the video. Let's go. So, as I mentioned, even though the Statue of Unity is actually 200 kilometers away from Ahmedabad, the roads are really good, and if you have your own transportation or you want to use any of the public transport, it's gonna take a while, but it's certainly gonna be worth it, and it won't be too hard. Super cool place to visit in India, number 15 is the AGONDA beach. AGONDA beach is not really very special in any way, I guess, but the really cool thing about it is that it's not really that well developed as some other beaches in the state, and as such, it has this very remote, very, very unique, very beautiful, and very chill vibe that I loved to the moon and back. Of course, they still have some restaurants and hotels and guest houses and everything there, but there's not that many people that come there, and there's no super loud parties and stuff. So when I was there, I felt so laid back and so relaxed. It was so beautiful. I spent, I think, 2 or 3 days living there, and I completely disconnected because, for example, my phone didn't have any connection and stuff, and it was very hard to find the Wi-Fi there. So I just had so much fun, reading books, taking very long walks, admiring the beautiful sunsets and sunrises there on the beach, and obviously going for a swim. The reason AGONDA beach is not really that popular among tourists is because it's not that easy to reach. I mean, it's not hard, but it takes a bit of a while, So from Vasco da Gama, once again, the airport of Goa and the train station and everything, it's around 65 kilometers away, I think. So you can easily find transportation options or go there with your own transport. But 60 few kilometers on those roads is not the easiest task, but I'm sure you can do it. Amazing place to visit in India. Number 14 is the fort of MEHRANGARH. The MEHRANGARH fort was built in the 15th century and stands right above the city of Jodhpur. The fort is so big that inside its boundaries are several palaces known for their intricate carvings and expansive courtyards. Also, it turns out that the fort's museum is apparently one of the most well-stocked museums in the state of Rajasthan, featuring palanquins, costumes, weapons, and lots of art. As you might have guessed, I'm not the biggest fan of visiting very touristy places, and obviously quite often museums are maybe a little bit boring, but this one, honestly, I really enjoyed To the Moon and Back because it was big, but there were a lot of different rooms with a lot of different expositions. All the expositions were really beautiful. They had some interesting information about that item or that era or, you know, that thing, whatever. So you could just walk around, see these really beautiful things that the royalty were using, you know, hundreds of years ago, and obviously learn a lot more about the history of that place, which was really, really cool, and was also very well organized, very clean, very beautiful. So I certainly enjoyed this place, even if it's maybe a little touristy. MEHRANGARH Fort is located literally inside the city of Jodhpur, which is called the Blue City of India. Once again, one of the most touristy places in India, because it's not far from Delhi and not far from Jaipur, another very famous city, just a few hundred kilometers away. So getting there is, once again, very easy. I'm sure there's trains, buses, you know, obviously good roads if you have your own transportation. It's just that once again in India, you know, it takes a while to get anywhere because there's quite a bit of traffic and cows and all that stuff. But if you have the time and you like these kind of places, it'll be worth it. Cool place to visit in India, number 13, is also the first stepwell on this list, and that is the ADALAJ stepwell. The ADALAJ stepwell is certainly one of the most beautiful stepwells in the state of Gujarat, and also a place of a great legend, which says that in the 15th century, the area was ruled by a Hindu ruler. It was subject to water shortage and was highly dependent on the rains. To alleviate the misery of his people, the Hindu ruler began the construction of a large and deep stepwell. Before this project could be completed, though, his kingdom was attacked by a neighboring Muslim ruler, and the king was killed in battle. His widow wanted to commit a suicide and join her husband in the afterlife. However, the new ruler prevented her from giving up her own life and proposed marriage. She agreed to a marriage proposal on the condition that he would first complete the building of the stepwell. When the well was completed in record time, the queen decided to end her life and jumped into the well, ending the saga in romantic tragedy. If you happen to find yourself in Ahmedabad, the biggest city in Gujarat, it's very easy to get there because the stepwell itself is actually in the outskirts of the city. So if you are in the city, I'm sure there's going to be loads of transportation options. Once again, when we were there with our bikes, it's just, I don't know, like 10-15 kilometers away from the city center, so it's almost inside the city, maybe in the outskirts. Very easy to reach, and certainly a place worth visiting. Amazing place to visit, number 12, is one of my favorite towns in all of India, hands down. I mean, I've been to so many towns and cities and stuff, and this place will always be in my heart because I had the most wonderful time there. And that town is called ORCHHA. ORCHHA was established in the early 16th century as the seat of one of the many princely states of central India of those times, and was so rich that it even built a palace for the Mughal emperor who came to visit the town for just one night. Over the years, several generations of kings and queens lived in this town with vast armies of officials, servants, horses, and elephants. These days, the incredible complexes built by the royalty of those times have been mostly abandoned and only visited by tourists, but one can certainly imagine the grandeur in which those people lived just a few hundred years ago. Wow. ORCHHA's location is a bit hard to reach, maybe. For example, the closest big city to it is Agra, which is obviously a place a lot of people visit, but even that is 260 kilometers away, and 260 kilometers in India, especially in that part of the country, is not what you might expect. I mean, it's probably going to take you 5 or 6 or more hours to actually get there, depending on your speed, and obviously if you keep stopping, it's going to take 10 or 12 or more, right? So once again, it's a very beautiful place to visit, not that easy to reach, but that's also a huge upside for you, my adventurous explorer, because it's not going to be as touristy as it would be otherwise, so there's upsides and downsides. Gorgeous place to visit in India, number 11, is the Butterfly Beach in Goa. The Butterfly Beach is a very tiny beach, actually not too far from the beach of Agonda that I already talked about in this video, but it's so beautiful, it literally blew my mind. Once again, if you've seen my videos in the past, you'll know that I'm the kind of guy who hates the beach and loves the mountains, but this beach was amazing because once again it's kind of difficult to reach. You cannot go there with a car, only a motorbike or walk, but walking is going to take you a long time. And that's why not that many people come there, I guess, but it's so remote, so peaceful, so nice. There's like rocks around it where you can chill. There's obviously quite a bit of sand where you can also, you know, relax and stuff. The water itself is it's like the perfect temperature and everything. And we took some beautiful drone shots of the place and just looked so amazing, like literally surrounded by the jungle and stuff. It's a very, very nice place. The Butterfly Beach is located not too far from Agonda Beach, actually just a few kilometers away. And I think 60 kilometers away from Vasco da Gama, you know, the Goa International Airport. But the thing is that it's really remote. Like when we were going there, there were no signs and stuff. And for example, the road has a lot of really crazy holes, so you can easily sort of, you know, crash on your side or whatever. So it's a very interesting ride and stuff. As I said, you cannot really take a car there. You either walk or take a motorbike. But even with a motorbike, you'll still have to park it like, I don't know, 10 minutes walk away from the beach itself. So it takes a while to reach, but once again, good things don't necessarily come easy, especially when it comes to traveling. So certainly go there. Place number 10 is the highest ranking stepwell on this video, and that is the Rani Kebab stepwell. The Rani Kebab stepwell was built 1,000 years ago by a widowed queen and is a well-known UNESCO World Heritage Site that attracts thousands of tourists from around the world. In the past, the stepwell was completely flooded by a nearby river, but it still retained over 500 intricate statues and is so well preserved that it's even been named the cleanest iconic place in India. The Rani Kebab stepwell is located not too far from the capital of Gujarat, Ahmedabad, but it's still 130 kilometers away, so I think you'll most likely need your own transportation, or you'll have to go with some sort of a tourist group. I'm sure in Ahmedabad you can certainly find a lot of transportation options because Rani Kebab is incredibly famous in the area, and there's so many people visiting it every single year. Super cool place to visit in India. Number 9 is a place that in a way feels like home to me because I spent quite a bit of time living there and you know, exploring the whole area, and that is the largest slum in Asia called Dharavi. Dharavi has an area of just over 2.1 square kilometers and a population of about 700,000 people, making it one of the most densely populated areas in the world. The Dharavi slum was founded in 1883 during the British colonial era and grew in part because of an expulsion of factories and residents from the peninsular city center by the colonial government and from the migration of poor rural Indians into urban Mumbai. For this reason, Dharavi is currently a highly multi-religious, multi-ethnic and diverse settlement. Dharavi has an active and formal economy in which numerous household enterprises employ many of the slum residents. Leather, textiles, and pottery products are among the goods made inside Dharavi. The total annual turnover is estimated to be at over $1 billion per year. A year ago, I published a video about how I spent 5 days living in the slums of Mumbai, and obviously throughout that experience I got to learn so much and I got to see so much and stuff. And if you want to visit those areas yourself, my best tip is to find a person who will show you around. That's so incredibly important. It's gonna basically make or break your trip. Dharavi is located literally in the city center of Mumbai. Basically, that's why the land there is so incredibly expensive. So going there is very easy. You can either take a train or a taxi. You know, literally every single person in Mumbai knows where Dharavi is. So just, you know, figure out where exactly you want to get to in Dharavi and go. Amazing place to visit in India. Number 8 is one of the coolest hill stations in the country called Mahabaleshwar. Mahabaleshwar is a really beautiful area in the state of Maharashtra that's also home to one of the very few evergreen forests of India and even a canyon. They also have some very beautiful remote viewpoints, gorgeous farms, and of course, absolutely amazing roads. My best tip when visiting Mahabaleshwar is to go to the Elephant Canyon. That was my favorite canyon, and it's called the Elephant Canyon because they have this rock formation that looks exactly like an elephant. Either way, if you go there for sunset, the place is kind of big, so you can find a pretty distant place from which you can actually see the whole canyon, and you can simply watch the sun go down. Obviously, hill stations are relatively hard to reach because, of course, they're in the mountains, right? So you can kind of easily reach this place from Mumbai, but it's still 220 kilometers away, and you know, keep in mind the fact that when you finally hit the mountains, when you hit the hills, it's going to be very, very windy. So it takes quite a bit of time to reach. But once again, if you go there even for a weekend, for 2 or 3 days, I think it's certainly going to be worth it. A few hours of, you know, driving one way is certainly good enough for the amazing views you're going to see there. Epic place to visit in India, number 7, is probably one of the most beautiful viewpoints we've seen throughout the 8,000 kilometer motorbike trip, and that is Mandalpatti. Mandalpatti is this pretty remote place. It's actually not too far from BYLAKUPPE, the Tibetan settlement, but it's high up in the mountains, and getting there is very, very hard. So you cannot take a car there because you need to cross some tiny rivers, and the roads are just absolutely terrible. You can either take a proper motorbike or a jeep. But once again, because of that, not that many people come there because it takes many hours to like drive up those mountains. And if you want to go there for sunrise, which is what we did, you need to wake up at like 4 a.m. and then it's very cold, you know. So it's kind of hard to get to, but it's so beautiful. When we were there, we went to a completely random hill that we saw, I guess the most beautiful that we saw, and then we saw the sunrise from there sitting on some random rock. We were above the clouds, we saw all these beautiful trees and hills and mountains and everything all around us, and it was just such an incredible sight. Wow, I felt so happy being there. My best tip is that when you go to Mandalpatti, there will be a lot of people trying to sell you the Jeep rides. Some people actually even told us that no, you cannot go there with a motorbike, you need to get a Jeep, blah, blah, because obviously they wanted to sell their services, right? But we did end up going there with a motorbike, and I think that was a much better option, because if you take a Jeep, they will take you to the places where only the tourists go, you know? So there will probably be people around you, and everyone's gonna be talking and like using their selfie sticks and stuff. Whereas if you go there with your own transport, whether a Jeep or a motorbike, you can literally go up absolutely any hill. So you can just park your bike or whatever, you know, we can walk up and then come down, right? And so that means you can sit absolutely anywhere, because the area is really, really big. It's not just one viewpoint or one hill or, you know, one place. It's massive, right? So that would certainly be my best tip if you have that mode of transportation. As I already mentioned, Mandalpatti is located not too far from BYLAKUPPE, meaning the closest big city nearby is Mysore, but that is 150 kilometers away. And if you take a motorbike from there to here, it's probably going to take you like 5 hours or so, or 4 hours, something like this. So it's not very easy to reach, but once again, it's certainly going to be worth it, because the views from there are just out of this world stunning. Super beautiful place to visit in India. Number 6 is one of the coolest tiny villages I've ever been to in my entire life, and it's located literally inside the mountains of Himalayas, and that is the village of Tosh. Tosh village stands in the Himachal Pradesh state of India. It is located at about 2,400 meters above sea level on a hill near Kasol in the Parvati Valley, surrounded by huge sky-high mountains. Because of its incredibly relaxed atmosphere and beautiful mountain views, it is often described as a traditional village turned hippie colony. I visited the Tosh village during my very first trip in India. That was well over 3 years ago when I was bald and I was only 20 years old, I think. I didn't even know it existed, really. Some locals told me about it, and then I thought, well, I guess I'll just go check it out. And it was so nice. I still remember how I was sitting at this random coffee shop drinking a super cheap masala chai with probably the best cafe views of my entire life. As I mentioned, the Tosh village is located in the Himalayas. I remember from New Delhi, I took a night bus, which wasn't the best option, but to this town called Kasol, and then from there I took another bus to the Parvati Valley, and then I said from there I had to take a taxi. So it's very difficult to reach. I think it only makes sense if you're already in the Parvati Valley or you're already in the Himalayas, and then you can go there for a day trip or spend a couple of nights there. It's very peaceful, very relaxed, very beautiful. Certainly an amazing place. We have finally entered the top 5 coolest places to visit in India on this list. Yes, if you watched the whole video from the beginning until here, oh my goodness, you're a true explorer, you're a true legend. Love you to the moon and back. Super happy to have you here. Number 5 is a place I stumbled upon completely randomly. I didn't even know it existed, but it was so epic. I honestly couldn't believe it. And that is the Bala Killa Fort. Apparently, Bala Killa is a very remote, pretty abandoned fort that's not really visited by a lot of tourists because it's not a popular, well-known destination. But the fort itself had the most amazing location. It looked very, very beautiful. I mean, all the ornaments, all the windows and the walls and the roofs and everything were just so nice. And also it was overlooking some sort of a city nearby, and it was surrounded by mountains. And we went there during the golden hour, and I mean, it just literally blew our minds how beautiful and completely empty and abandoned that place actually was. It was definitely the coolest place to end the trip with, and I was so happy being there. The Bala Killa Fort is located not that far from New Delhi, I think 160 kilometers, but it's a bit in the middle of nowhere, if you know what I mean. Like, most people don't really go there because it's not on the way to anything really. Like, you would just have to go there and then basically you'd have to come back. So if you have your own transportation, it's kind of easy to get there. The roads are relatively good. If you don't, I don't really think anyone organized any tours there or so. So maybe just rent a car or motorbike and bounce to this beautiful, beautiful fort. Epic place to visit in India. Number 4 is a place that I visited during my first trip in India when I was 20, and also my last visit in India when I was 24, and both of those times were very, very nice, and that is Hampi. Hampi is a UNESCO World Heritage Site located in southern India. In the 14th century, Hampi was the capital of the Hindu Vijayanagara Empire. Chronicles left by Persian and European travelers state that Hampi was a prosperous, wealthy, and grand city with numerous temples, farms, and trading markets. It was so prosperous that by the year 1500, Hampi actually became the world's second largest city after Beijing, and probably India's richest at that time, attracting traders from all around the world. These days, Hampi certainly isn't anywhere near to being the world's second largest city, but rather a tiny touristy village surrounded by loads of amazing ruins that are spread over 4,100 hectares. Oh, also, their nature is incredibly beautiful. My best tip is to be incredibly relaxed when coming to Hampi and not rush anywhere. So I don't know if you know this, but for a lot of people, Hampi is like like the hippie capital of India or something like this. So a lot of Indians and foreigners actually come to Hampi to completely relax, chill. There's a lot of like yoga retreats and trance dancing events and whatnot. Like a lot of music, a lot of bars and super cool coffee shops and stuff like that. So a lot of people just come there to completely let everything go and forget life and just be in the moment and have loads of fun. So I think it's best if you do the same thing, because then you'll be having a great time for sure. So for me, generally, it's very hard to just completely relax and not think about mountains or motorbikes or business and stuff. But if you can do it, oh my goodness, you will love it. I think Hampi is around 350 kilometers away from Bangalore and maybe 450 or 500 from Mumbai, so not too far, quite doable. And even if you do not have your own transportation, there's quite a few buses going there, so I'm sure if you have the time, you can go there. Super epic place to visit in India. Number 3 is the highest ranking hill station on this list, and that is OOTY. OOTY is a place I didn't really get to visit on my second or third visits in India, but I did on my first, and it completely blew my mind. It was such a beautiful, beautiful hill station. Wow. Apparently OOTY used to belong to the British, and so a lot of British officials would set up their mansions, like their summer homes and stuff there in OOTY, and they would go there and stuff, and I guess they were doing a good job of preserving the location, so they had some parks and cafes and this and that. But these days it's actually one of the largest tea plantation places in southern India, where they're growing so much tea. It's incredible. Like, if you explore the place, there's a lot of different tea plantations on hills and stuff, and it looks incredibly beautiful. And yeah, it's just so remote in the middle of this like huge jungle and stuff. It's a very, very nice place with a very, very interesting vibe. Once again, as a hill station should be, OOTY is a bit remote. I remember on my first trip, I actually rented a motorbike in Bangalore, and I did a short motorbike trip from Bangalore to OOTY and then back. It took us quite a while to reach it because it's around 300 kilometers away, and once again, you'll have to cross quite a few different hills and mountains and some like national parks and stuff. It was certainly worth it then, but I'm not sure how else you could really go there because it's a pretty tiny place. Maybe there are some buses, I don't really know, but the best option would probably be to try to find them in Bangalore, and if not, obviously just rent your car or motorbike and bounce there. It's a very, very nice place. really cool place to visit in India. Number 2 is by far the most unique temple I've seen in my entire life, hands down, no competition. And that is KHAJURAHO. KHAJURAHO is a group of 22 temples that are world famous for their incredibly unique sculptures which depict the art of Kama Sutra. KHAJURAHO temples were built in the 10th century during the Chandela dynasty of central India. After the decline of the dynasty in the 13th century, the temples were left under the cover of dense palm trees for many years and only rediscovered in 1838 by a British Army engineer, which led to their subsequent fame. Now, the thing about KHAJURAHO is that obviously they have some really interesting sculptures that you might not get to see on absolutely any other temple in the world. But I actually made a video about KHAJURAHO and I showed some of those sculptures, and then the video got age restricted and demonetized and stuff, and there was quite a bit of trouble. So I'm really sorry I cannot show those things on this video because I don't want it to be age restricted and demonetized, but I can assure you it's it's a very unique site. My best tip is to spend quite a bit of time walking all around the temple because they have hundreds or maybe even thousands of tiny statues everywhere, and obviously finding the really fun ones is not really that easy maybe. So just, you know, relax, enjoy, walk around, check out every single temple, and get ready for the really interesting sculptures, I guess. KHAJURAHO is located a little bit in the middle of nowhere, really. The closest big city that I visited is Agra, obviously, but even that is 450 kilometers away. I know there's another city called Lucknow, maybe it's a bit closer, but still, I mean, you'll certainly have to spend quite a bit of time going there. If you go there with a motorbike, the roads are relatively good, but once again, it takes a while. And finally, oh my goodness, we just came to place number 1. This video obviously took quite a while. Super happy you're still here. That feels amazing. Thank you so much. And this place is very special to me, very important to me. I've had the best time ever visiting that place, and I really want you to visit that place yourself. And once again, if you're still here, that means you're quite motivated. So you're a legend. This place is also a legend. Hope you guys will meet. My favorite place to visit in India out of every single place that I've seen thus far is one of the highest motorable roads in the whole world, called KHARDUNG. KHARDUNG is a mountain pass in the Ladakh region of the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. Built in 1976, it was opened to public motor vehicles in 1988. The elevation of KHARDUNG is way above 5,000 meters above sea level, making it incredibly high, much higher than a lot of the tallest mountains you can find in Europe, or quite a few really tall volcanoes you can find in Asia as well. I mean, it's just incredible. I think even the Everest base camp is actually lower than KHARDUNG itself, and that's actually a place you can reach with a motorbike or a car. Crazy. A lot of Indian people seem to think it's actually the highest road in the world, and that's what I've been told as well, but it turns out it isn't. But that doesn't really matter because it's still by far one of the highest motorable roads in the world. It's certainly my most beautiful and coolest place to visit in India that I loved to the moon and back. My best tip is to be very careful with the weather when you're going to KHARDUNG. For example, when we crossed the pass, initially the weather was kind of good. Obviously it was very cold, there was ice and snow everywhere, but that happens all around the year, right? Because it's just so high in the Himalayas. But then we spent a few days in the valley on the other side of KHARDUNG, and then when we wanted to go back, apparently there was a snowstorm and the road was apparently blocked. But because we didn't really want to miss our flights from Delhi, we had to go. So we somehow, managed to go through the security and everything, and we just bounced. But that was obviously not a smart thing to do. I certainly do not recommend you to do it because it was quite dangerous, of course. Like, imagine, you're so high up, there's the snowstorm, right? Like, you can hardly breathe. We had to push our motorbikes all the time. The good thing was that there were, I think, 6 or 7 of us, so we could help each other, but still, we could hardly feel our fingers. One of my friends could hardly breathe. We had to give him like an oxygen mask and everything. It was just incredible. And imagine if there was like a snowfall, you know what I mean? Like we could have actually died, or if you slipped and fell off a cliff, that'd be the end, right? So certainly I wouldn't recommend that. Please be careful with the weather, and even if you might miss a flight, don't go for it, because it's actually a pretty dangerous thing to do. So please take care of yourself, but certainly check out KHARDUNG if you have the time. It's It's such an amazing thing. And not only that place, actually the road leading up to it is also incredibly beautiful. It'll take you quite a few days to actually get to Khardung itself, but the whole trip will be completely amazing. Once again, as every really cool place in the world ever, the location of Khardung is of course not very easily reachable. What you need to do is you need to take a bus from New Delhi to this town called Manali. Then in Manali you need to get a permission to cross those roads because apparently they're controlling the amount of vehicles that can enter, which I think is an amazing idea. Then you need to take your vehicle from Manali to this tiny village or town called Leh, which takes a couple of days depending on how fast you drive. And then from there you need to once again go all the way up to this mountain and then either to the other side or back to Leh and then somehow get back home. So as I said, it takes a while to reach, but I think that's why it's so incredible, because every single day, every single meter, every kilometer, everything is really beautiful. You'll cross mountains and cross villages and chill with the locals. It's certainly gonna be worth it. Oh man, I can't believe it's finally over. Look, the sun has almost set already right there. It's a beautiful day. Can hardly feel my legs because I've been kneeling in this thing for I don't know how much time. And yeah, wow, thank you so much for watching the whole video. It means a lot. Apparently it was quite difficult to film it. It actually took me like 3.5 hours with all the walking and finding locations and stuff. But as I said, I really hope it's going to be useful to you in your future travels. India is obviously one of the most beautiful places, one of the most diverse places you can ever visit in your life, and there's so many cool places to visit there. So yeah, let me know what you thought about all these places. Maybe you've already visited a few, or maybe you're thinking of going to a few. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And if you ever get to visit some of these places in the future because of this video, it'll completely make my day. I don't know. Take a selfie, send it to me on Instagram at JacobLokaitis. I'll certainly smash the like button and be incredibly happy for you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, whatever you are in the world, you bloody legend. And of course, do not forget to always stay curious. See you next time. Bye.